What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and we just had a pretty epic debate. This is the final presidential debate, maybe the last presidential debate that either Vice President Biden or President Trump is a part of, depending on how the election turns out. But there was a lot of things that were covered. I would say that this debate was probably a lot better than the first debate. I thought that President Trump did a lot better than he did in the first debate. I predict that people are probably going to say that President Trump did slightly better. Biden didn't do terribly. Just kind of on my instant reaction poll, I would probably say that Trump did slightly better than Biden. One thing also, I think that expectations were pretty low on both sides. I just tuned into CNN and Fox to kind of see what they were saying. They were saying that both campaigns can probably pull kind of little sound bites and snippets that probably reflect well. I don't think that there was kind of any bombshell that I came down, but definitely something I think that both campaigns can be proud of. Sebastian, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you all for joining, Sebastian. That's awesome of you to send that. I'm very, very proud. Let's see. Good to see you again. Been working, so haven't seen much of your videos. Sebastian, thank you so much. I'm going to try to post a video every day, maybe even two, because we are getting down to the crunch time. We have about 12 days until the election, less than 2 weeks. I'm expecting some crazy things to happen. We've already seen that 50 million people have voted, which is probably around a third of the entire voting population for the 2020 election. But Sebastian, thank you so much for that super chat. That is very, very generous. And if any of y'all want to kind of ask a question for me to focus on, you can use the super chat feature right there. But thank you so much, Sebastian, right there. So just kind of doing an overview of what I've already said, and then I kind of want to dive into maybe some more specific questions that happened in the debate. I would say that President Trump probably did a little bit slightly better. I thought his attacks on Joe Biden were a little bit more effective than I think Biden's attacks on Trump were. I thought when Trump was kind of on message, when he said, like, to Biden, why didn't you do this when you were vice president? I think this is a pretty effective line of attack, because Biden did kind of have to eat his words on kind of the 1994 crime bill, and I think that this doesn't look good for Biden, that they kind of go back in the past and say that what he did was a mistake. I thought that the mute button feature really didn't have an effect. It was, of course, only for kind of the first 2 minutes. And there weren't as many interruptions at last time, but when there were, it wasn't major, and there was no kind of muting of each individual candidate, as we saw there. So I don't think that this is going to move the race that much. Maybe some people who were kind of turned off by Trump in the first debate, maybe, but maybe support him in the past, might come back to him. But also, one thing that I've been hearing a lot, I don't think there's a lot of undecided voters. I think that probably most people have made up their minds. Looking at these polls, I've seen back in 2016 there was about a 15% undecided voter pool about 10 days from the election, which is about right now. Looking at polls right now, it's only about 5% of the population. So in 2016, a lot of those undecided voters went to Trump, and they decided 2 days, 1 day, or maybe even the day of the election that they were going to vote for Trump, and that is why that matters. Right now, it's not as much, and we've already seen about 50 million people have voted, but still, I think we're going to see over 100 million people are going to cast their vote on election day, and some of them haven't made up their mind. In the chat, I would love to hear if anyone in the chat right now is a pure undecided voter, and then maybe some people in the chat can convince them to vote for either candidate. But the 5% that they're still undecided, it is a pretty large number. And if all those undecided voters go for Trump, then I think he wins. I think if it's an even split right now, then Biden will probably win just because he's up in the polls. But again, and I mentioned this in some of my past videos, that we can't necessarily trust all these polls, and we've seen voter registration data, early voting data that actually suggests that this race might be a lot closer than people think. So I definitely want to answer some of y'all's questions. I did see that CNN did call it a draw, and I definitely do think CNN is a bit leaning. I think Fox also called it a draw. It was funny. I saw Chris Wallace was just getting interviewed. He was the first debate moderator, and he was like, "I wish I could have moderated that debate." Definitely, both candidates were kind of more reined in, and I think both President Trump and former Vice President Biden were kind of trained. But I also thought that the moderator did a better job. She didn't try to interrupt either candidate when they're kind of in the middle of a thought, but I thought her questions were tough. I thought that the question that she asked were probably more favorable to Biden. But I'm not going to say that she was that biased, because she also asked Biden tough questions about the 1994 crime bill, and also the Hunter Biden emails. One thing that I wonder is, I remember that Hillary Clinton's emails got a lot of media attention in 2016, and I think this is something that hurt Hillary Clinton. People didn't trust her, but because of this, even though the whole email story was very confusing and I think hard to understand, it doesn't seem like that the Hunter Biden email scandal and the potential corruption in Ukraine and China and Russia is going to stick as much. So I wonder if, like, kind of President Trump's strategy of kind of leaning into these accusations of corruption are going to be as effective. I thought that on policy, both candidates did a lot better than they did in the first debate. I was surprised that they didn't really talk about the Supreme Court. I think that's kind of what's most fresh on my mind. I've been watching the Barrett not nomination to the Supreme Court. It seems what got kind of the most attention was healthcare. I'm trying to think of what else. Climate change and the environment kind of got some attention there. But I thought that a lot of the debate was kind of focused on the economy, and it's especially kind of which president would be better for Black Americans. And I thought that actually President Trump, I thought kind of on this issue of race that definitely Biden has the upper hand. I mean, if you kind of look at the polling data, it tends to seem like that Biden is doing a lot better with Black and Hispanic voters, which isn't surprising. But kind of looking at the data as a whole and relative to the 2016 election, the two groups that President Trump is actually polling better with are Hispanics and Blacks. But Trump is doing a lot worse with senior voters and whites with and without a college degree there. So overall, for people who just joined, I don't think that anyone can say that either candidate kind of won in a hands down fashion or just crush the other person. I think both campaigns are going to kind of take snippets here and here. I thought that there were some mistruths on both sides, so I mean that's not surprising there. Um, but overall, I think probably Trump slightly edged out Biden. Will it have a huge impact? I'll be interested to kind of look at the polls and then also kind of the snap polls on who people think won this debate. Um, and also, I don't think as many people tuned into this debate as the first one. But so I don't think it's going to have as large of an effect as the first debate could have had. Um, and also, I'm curious as to how many undecided voters were actually watching this and kind of basing their um, vote on what they were seeing on TV. And in 2016, I thought this was a lot more prevalent when people were watching the debates between Trump and Hillary Clinton. Um, I thought those were also very tight. I thought that in the first debate, Hillary Clinton definitely did better, but I thought in the last debate that Trump did better. And you saw kind of in the last 10 days of the election after Trump's final debate performance, and then after the Comey letter came out, that Trump was kind of riding that wave of momentum that carried him to the surprise upset electoral college victory in 2016. So I would love to answer your questions in the chat. One thing that I will also note about the debate is I didn't see kind of any one viral moment that I think that would be kind of played on the um, news shows tomorrow and throughout the day. I was looking at Twitter and didn't see kind of any one phrase or one word that was trending. Still, it was just still kind of like Biden or Trump. I don't know what kind of the SNL is going to mock. One thing that I thought was a little bit cringy on my end was kind of when Trump would look into the camera and be like, "People are dying of COVID. Did you have one person in your family die and there's an empty chair at the dinner table?" And Trump kind of called him out on this, kind of saying like, "Look, this is just a pure politician talk." I honestly kind of agreed with Trump in this moment because I kind of did see this as kind of fake and phony. But I think also when kind of Biden was talking about character and the morals of the president, this is something that definitely Biden has the upper hand. If you look at polls across the board on like who do you think is a better person, who has better morals, who do you trust more? I mean, Biden definitely has a lead here. But I think what some people on the right would say is, even though I don't like Trump as a person, I still think that his policies are better, and that's how a lot of kind of conservatives who don't love Trump have justified their support for him. So definitely don't think this was necessarily as entertaining as the first debate, but I mean, politics shouldn't be reality TV. This isn't The Apprentice. So I definitely was glad to see kind of more of a policy-focused debate. I'm glad that both candidates, especially President Trump, was kind of more reined in. There was less interrupting. There were still some personal attacks, like Biden on Trump and Trump on Biden. I really don't think that many people actually care about kind of these family connections, whether it's President Trump's supposed bank account in China or Hunter Biden's deals with Ukraine or Russia. I don't really think this is going to matter that much, and I don't think people are kind of going to choose their president on family members, different connections there. People are kind of talking about some about the mic and the moderator. I thought that the moderator did fine. I think that Trump did interrupt her some, but I don't think it was that bad or as egregious as the first debate. Um, and I thought that there weren't really any issues with the mic. I saw that sometimes that Biden and Trump kind of like just very softly tried to speak when it was muted, but that wasn't a huge issue. Now I don't think that either campaign is going to make it kind of a huge problem. I definitely kind of want to watch the CNN focus group afterwards, kind of see what they say. Um, Even though I think that all the channels kind of have their bias, I do actually think that CNN has the best debate and election night coverage. That's probably going to be the network I'm going to be watching on election night. But yeah. So let's see. Chase Swing says, much better than the last debate, very reminiscent of 2016. That Biden is infinitely more warm than Clinton. Biden won, in my view, that Trump is back to his old self, so to speak. So, I mean, Trump is never going to change. I thought Trump was more reined in. So, I mean, people who didn't like Trump aren't going to think that he had a good debate performance. But I think that in the view of people who like President Trump, whether it's Republican, legislator Trump supporters, I think they're going to be very happy with Trump's performance tonight. People who are Biden supporters are probably kind of in the same boat. Biden didn't have any like real moment when he kind of like crashed and burned. So overall, I don't see this changing the race much. And if Trump wants to have a chance to win, I think there's going to have to be something else in these last 12 days. But I mean, time is of the essence right now, and we see that 50 million people have already voted. I mean, some people even predict that almost half of the voting population is going to vote before election day, which is November 3rd. And with vote by mail and stuff, I think we're actually going to see less than half of the voting population vote in person on November 3rd. So that would definitely be a very, very interesting comment. I still plan on voting in person on November 3rd. This is going to be my first time voting in a presidential election. And I'm not going to tell you right now who I'm going to vote for, but I might do that. I might live stream right after I'm voting. So I will leave you in suspense there. So right now I'm at about 18 minutes. I would love for y'all to donate a super chat right here and ask a question so I can focus that. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for the $15 super chat. I don't expect y'all to do that much by any means, but even like $2, $3, $5 for a super chat, and then you can ask questions, and I will focus on that, and I will shout you out for that. So thank you very much for all y'all watching here. So while I'm waiting for the super chats to come in, Grayson Miller asks, what impact can you see the debate on having on undecided voters who haven't voted yet? So I've had kind of a hard time trying to see who these undecided voters are. What profile do they take? This is kind of who I think that the typical undecided voter is. I think that they're probably lean to be more conservative, but more in kind of the never Trump conservative mold. But they still kind of, it's a far reach for them to vote for Biden. So people, maybe more right-leaning, moderate conservative, moderate Republican people who saw this debate, I can see them maybe coming back towards Trump. I think if there's still any undecided voters after the first debate, when I think Trump crashed and burned and turned off a lot of voters, then I think these voters are going to kind of be more attached to Trump. Because if they haven't broken from Trump yet, then I don't see anything in the last 12 days that is going to make them turn from Trump right here. So I'm going to move in front of the TV for a second just to kind of see what different people are saying kind of on the Chiron right here. But definitely a lot of cool things that were happening in this debate. So I would love to answer more of y'all's questions. if you have some in the chat, just kind of summarize what I've already said before. I do think that President Trump probably did slightly better in this debate than Vice President Biden. But also, I mean, it's really hard to tell, and I don't think this is going to move the needle that much. In the first debate, I definitely think that Biden had the upper hand, but I mean, overall, it's just very, very ugly to watch. This debate was less ugly to watch, but I also think that there's going to be less viewers. So, um, I would almost say that there's probably maybe even half the viewership that the first debate had. And I can also tell that with my live stream viewers. After my first debate reaction, I had up to like 70 or 80 viewers. Right now, 25, which is fine. I love all you loyal viewers right now that are watching me, and I'd love to kind of talk to what y'all want to talk about. Let's see. Danielle Armstrong, Trump killed a man on live TV and got away with it. I don't think it was necessarily kind of the brutal kind of takedown that I think on both sides, kind of the partisan media, are going to say like Trump just blah blah. I definitely think Trump laid some pretty good shots on Biden when he was kind of saying over and over again, why haven't you done it? Why didn't you do it when you were eight years in Congress, or you've been a politician for 47 years? Why haven't you got it done? Why are you just bringing it up now before a presidential run? Also, kind of when Trump asked about the 1994 crime bill, I think it was effective in that. I think his attack kind of on the Hunter Biden email scandal, I don't think it's going to be as effective as it was with kind of the Hillary Clinton email scandal, because first of all, the media isn't really covering it as much, and also Trump definitely kind of went Biden was like, who built the cage? Just kind of said that over and over again. Definitely that question posed at Trump. I mean, this is a loser question, or a lose-lose for Trump. I mean, the Trump policy was to separate children from their family at the border. There's no denying that. And this report that comes out, that's about 500 children still can't find their parents. I mean, this is horrible. And I mean, I think it's kind of hard for Trump to defend this, but for Trump to kind of deflect this and kind of put the emphasis on who built the cages was kind of a genius move on his part. And it might have kind of deflected some of the criticism that he might have had. Let's see. In 2016, it seemed like everyone had decided who they wanted to vote for by the third debate in 2016. Like now, why does his chances of winning increase so much last time? Not Republic, just curious. So, what we saw kind of in the last 10 days of the election in 2016, I think what we saw was that after the Access Hollywood take him out, Hillary Clinton had a big boost. She was up by about 10 to 12 points in the national polls. But when the Comey letter came out in the last days, I mean, Trump was making up that ground. And by election day, Hillary Clinton in the polls was only up by an average of 3.2 points in the Real Clear Politics average of the popular vote. Trump is going to kind of need a trend similar to that if he's going to have a chance. And 2020 right now, I think Biden's up by an average of 8 points in the popular vote. Trump's going to need that margin to be at least under 5, in my opinion. Obviously, the national popular vote doesn't matter as much as the state-to-state polls, and those were very, very wrong in 2020. But I don't think that this debate alone is going to change the chances of who's going to win. So right now I'm at about 25 minutes. I would love to answer more of y'all's questions. If you want to use the super chat feature, under kind of where you chat, you chat, you can hit the $ button right here, and you can either send a super sticker or a super chat. So I'd really encourage y'all to do that if you haven't already. I just really appreciate that. It just keeps my my channel running and keep on doing that. Green Waterway D says, I love your channel, my guy. I hope you keep making content after the election. I will definitely try to. Hopefully, most of y'all will stick around. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers. If y'all are watching this right now and you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe right now. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate y'all watching and kind of asking questions and keeping actively engaged here. Let's see. Could the rollout of Biden allegations spark that trend like the Comey stuff? Where it is right now, I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. I think there would need to be something else, probably a little bit more substantial there. I still expect there to be a couple of October surprises in the book. I don't think that a late in the game October surprise is going to matter as much this go around, just because so many people have already voted. But again, still, I think about half of the voting population is going to vote on election day. All right, so if you have any final questions, I would love to answer them. If y'all don't, then I'll probably end this live stream pretty soon. I typically like to do these about 30 minutes. But also, so I have about 12 days until the election. The last thing I want to ask before I leave, what ideas would y'all want for some videos that I can make going forward? Because I definitely want y'all's input on that. I was not involved in the 2016 election. Honestly, my interest in politics kind of came out kind of after the 2016 election. I might do a video on maybe how this debate kind of affects the electoral map, but I definitely don't see it making a huge impact. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much for joining the live stream, and I will see y'all later.